It's been a while since we talked about the lab data audit, and so Liz asked me to spend about 10 minutes and give you guys an update on what's been happening with it. It is still going on, but what I'm going to try and refresh your memory very quickly on the background, purpose, and scope, give you an update on what the status is today, and some preliminary findings, not final, just very preliminary, that we've already rolled back to the laboratories themselves, and then what our next steps are going to be. By way of refresher, the background on this is that these audits are part of our ongoing obligation to audit response actions pursuant to the MCP. One of the key themes that's throughout this whole project is that we're looking specifically at analyses that were certified by the labs to have followed the compendium of analytical methods, or the CAM. That repeats itself throughout everything, and it will in our discussions going forward. And then the bottom line is that, the overall purpose is to ensure that data quality is adequately documented and commensurate with its use in supporting assessment and cleanup decisions.
Remind me later.
Okay. The scope, we originally sent RFIs to 14 laboratories over 2 years ago, in November of 2016, after we went through the process of identifying 47 data packages that included, in some combination or other, VPH, GPH, APH, and TO15. Those were the four primary ones. There was another lab that also involved in other things, involved 8260 VOCs and 1,4-dioxane. And again, the key with all the packages that we pulled out and identified was that we actually found the CAM certification signed certified form from each lab for each package. Yeah.
What was your criteria for the 14 labs?
It was pretty much the same list of labs we did when we asked, remember the double blind about 10 years ago?
When we first set up the data quality.
When we first set up the whole data quality thing, and it was mostly just semi-informal, what are the labs that everybody uses?
So that's what I'm saying, so it's the, it's the labs that
you
see most typically.
There they are, those are the 14 labs. So most of our work, if you go through the files, you'll see, I'm guessing, over 95% of all of our analytical work in the database comes from one of these 14 labs. Some of you probably have already noticed that 2 of them, AMRO and GeoLabs, are no longer in the laboratory analytical services business. So we're already down to 12. But those are the 14 labs. We've heard from all of them originally. After we've sent the original RFI, they sent back all the complete data packages that we'd asked for each of those methods. Working with our SARS contractor, we were able to be fair, what we did is we anonymously shared the results with every single laboratory so that they could have a bite at the apple, so that if we said, hey, we think you did these 5 things wrong, we're giving them an opportunity to comment on that before we publish the results, which we are going to do. So what we did is when we shared these results, we issued a second RFI, and that was just last November, giving them a chance to say whether they agree or disagree with what we're calling a CAM non-compliance. This stuff can get very technical and very complicated, as I'm sure a lot of you know. And then also asking them if whatever went wrong, is it still their current practice, or have they done anything to change their current practice based on these results. We've heard from 10 of the 12 remaining labs with the second RFI. The ones that I've looked at, and again, this is still preliminary, but the ones I've looked at, a lot of people did agree with a lot of what we said. A lot of people disagree with some of what we said for different reasons that will all be in the final report. But we're still waiting to hear from two more labs before we finish compiling all of our results. It is a lot of information. That's why this is taking so long, and probably will take a while before we publish the report. The types of errors and types of CAM non-compliances vary between reporting, method deviation, calculation errors, QC, and laboratory errors. It's quite extensive. When you see the report, there's lots of detail and lots of tables. Preliminary findings, and again, this is very preliminary, and I'm not going to get into too many of the details here. In general, VPH and EPH had most of the problems, and in general, TO15 and APH had less of the problems. Everything had some sort of problem to some degree, but most of the calibration and reporting limit problems, at least as I looked through it before we passed it off to our SARS contractor, I saw this a lot, calibration and reporting limits, and I saw it a lot for VPH and EPH. TO15 and APH, again, some of those issues were there, but in general, the confidence and frequency of these errors was a lot less significant than it was for VPH and EPH.
Ken?
Yeah.
Problems with VPH, did that include the new method?
Does it include the method?
The new method.
The new method? Yeah, it does. It does. And it gets into, I'm going to really get lost real fast here, but it gets into calibration, regression analysis, and those types of things.
Was there a difference between the two methods?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm sure we'll get into that. I don't think, let me think a minute. I'm not sure there's going to be, because some of these packages are a couple of years old, so maybe the new method may not be as popular.
I don't know if there were, I'm not sure if there were
Yeah.
PCMS.
There might have, I mean, that's a good question. There might be, but I'm not sure. And our next,
When we initiated this, which was when, back in 2016?
yeah, November.
We went back 2 years, so it was data packages from 2014 to 2016.
Right.
So I bet you it's just the GC method then.
Yeah.
Probably just.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Right. So our next steps is, like I said, we're still waiting for 2 more labs. We're still working with our SARS contractor. We're still conferring with John Fitzgerald and Liz and myself to go through this stuff. It's a lot. And figuring out how the labs have responded and whether they agree or disagree with what we're calling a non-compliance. We will be putting together a final report with all the labs, not anonymously, but named. All the labs will be named with all the findings we have and all the what we're calling CAM non-compliances. In addition to that, based on this work, there'll probably be some recommendations that will come out of this for how we use the CAM, maybe have to the CAM form itself, and how much confidence we have in the CAM that it does help us provide meaningful, useful data. Yeah.
So the findings of this report, how will this affect us as LSPs that have submitted opinions using the data and where there's an issue?
Yeah, that's the huge question. That's the $1 million question is how, if we find something really wrong, how's it going to affect you guys who have used these data? Very preliminarily, we can say that we've looked at a couple of things that show that does not seem to be as big an issue as we had feared. Like if something's above GW1, it's still above GW1, even if the reporting limit is inaccurate. It's still, if it's a GW1 area, it's still classified as a GW1 area. Those types of things we've spot checked. But yes, that's going to be the heart of a lot of the time that we're working.
And obviously the big issue is on permanent solutions, making sure that we've identified a condition of significant risk.
Right.
If it changes that, then
Right.
it seems like a reopener.
Exactly. Potentially it could be, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
And neither, as far as I know, neither has our contractor. But that's something we got to look at.
Good, thanks.
That's it.
Ken,
Yeah.
are you planning on modifying any of the CAM methods to make them more understandable or clarify things that the labs are doing wrong? Because obviously if they all think they're following the CAM, they're interpreting it incorrectly, because I don't think they want to do it incorrectly.
Correct.
Are you planning on going back and
Yeah,
doing that? So
absolutely, yeah, if it makes sense. It's
Yeah.
one of the things that will come out of this is recommendations for the can, how it's used, what it says, what it doesn't say,
Okay.
how it's interpreted. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yeah,
I'm not
it
a
is.
Latin person. It's tough.
And maybe even the form for CAM compliance, because that's what the LSPs use. I mean, I, as a
Absolutely.
data
Yeah.
reviewer, look at all the details, but they don't. They just look at that form and all the boxes are checked, they go with it.
Yeah.
And so maybe we need
Yeah, we might do
some
that.
clarification
Okay.
there.
All right, I'll throw something out here. This will be a topic for future discussion, is that form may or may not be all that we've hoped it would become.
And that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
because
if
I
every
look
box
at
is
CAM,
checked,
I
it
look at
doesn't
CAM
mean
data,
that
and
you're
it's,
okay.
yeah.
Well, I would say that it's not the form, but it's completing the form and answering yes to a question when it really isn't yes, and it should have been narrated.
Right.
Well, and you wouldn't know
The
it.
form is great.
Form
How
is
the form
great,
is being-
but it may, the risk is false sense of security.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's what
yes, yes. Especially with a non-detect, and I think that goes back to your question. As a data reviewer, the thing that you worry about most and where there is the most uncertainty is what is your reporting limit.
Correct.
And if you don't know that something, you want to say no significant risk, you've got to know
Yep.
what that sensitivity,
Yeah,
where
reporting
that
limits-
reporting limit is.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Yeah, you'll see that in these gigantic summary tables, that reporting limits is a big one.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.